Hi, how are you? Welcome to this panel. Glad to see the panelists and also some participants here today. We're talking about the South Hub Seed Grants program specifically, and giving a information session and an overview of what we're doing. So I am Dr. Renata Rawlings-Goss. I'm the Executive Director of the South Big Data Hub, and we'll talk about the mission of the hub as it relates to this program and to the SEEDS programs that are going, and to some of the examples of projects that have been awarded from this program in the past. So good morning, and we'll go ahead and start with introductions. So I'd like to introduce first the hub. For those who may not have been engaged with us in the past, who we are is we are a community convener for data innovation. We play a role of being community infrastructure. We have approximately 1,300, over 1,300 members in not only including the South, even though the concentration is in the South. We have been formed as one of 4 big data innovation hubs that cover the whole of the United States. Our region is Delaware through Texas. The population is basically split up by population. And we are here to foster data innovation ecosystem, to increase the capacity for partnerships around data science, to accelerate scientific discovery and innovation, to help broaden participation in data science, and to help spur economic and development, as well as address social challenges, societal challenges that are affecting our region with data science and with these projects. So what we do and how we do and accomplish those goals is to try to actively reduce the barriers to data innovation at scale. And so what we see as those barriers are these 4 barriers here. That one, there is a lack of robust data science education and workforce throughout the region to meet the needs of industry, to meet the needs of academia, as well as government in different sectors, and how that education system works together. A lack of knowledge around data sharing and open data infrastructure. So just that communicating of what is available and what data is around what open data infrastructure is available, and increasing that knowledge and awareness. The third one is a lack of community mobilization around multiple sectors of data science, so that as these different areas develop, they develop in silos, and how can learnings from one area really cross different communities and be mobilized across these different sectors. And 4, we see a lack of formalized partnerships to strengthen the work on challenges affecting the region and the nation. So these are the ways that the hub in general is working, the South Hub, to try to reduce the barriers to data innovation at scale, and in particular priority areas. These are the priority areas: the smart cities and environment, health disparities, education and workforce, materials and advanced manufacturing, team science, and so on. So we are looking at these priority areas particularly as ones that are important, particularly to the southern region, even though they span broader than that too. So this is who we serve, our target audience. As you can see, our partners range outside of that area because a lot of people are interested in these partnership areas. But these are our 16 states, Delaware through Texas, including the U.S. territories and the Virgin and Washington, D.C. And so through that region, we try to amplify the successes of other programs and partners and encourage community sharing. And we look at sharing mutual success to try not to recreate the wheel, but more make sure that all boats rise. So we have a number of programs and a number of partners. So we've had different types of projects, spoke projects. We have programs that help with building capacity for faculty in data science, which is our Data Up program. We have fellowships that we offer for industry and government, from graduate students all the way through faculty members doing sabbaticals with government agencies or industry. We offer cloud partnerships, working groups that meet monthly, that we have 3 One is the education working group, where program leaders for data science or people interested in creating a data science program, we meet monthly. And we also have a data science and data infrastructure working group to try to spread the open infrastructure that is available and connect people with providers, and a social cybersecurity, looking at fake news and how those things are connected through research. And also our S.E.E.D grants program and our partners program. So S.E.E.D grants program, we really see in the category of partnerships. And why we do it is that we see a pressing need for data innovation that it can solve some of these pressing needs in these priority areas. In the ones we talked about, which are vertical areas, health disparities, environment, smart cities, manufacturing, but also that we could use data innovation to improve upon education and workforce development, to help with better sharing and cyber infrastructure, and to help build community engagement as well. So we see this as a way of expanding beyond just looking at the hub is really inclusive of people in the region, and trying to build and lift up some of the projects that can help do this, to help bring data innovation and to help solve these types of issues. So we see these four pillars: education, cyber infrastructure, community engagement, and partnership, really working together to produce that role. And we see the role of the S.E.E.D.S program specifically to fall in our partnerships and collaboration section, even though it can touch on all of the others as well. So S.E.E.D.S stands for Southern Engagement and Enrichment in Data Science. And it's one of the three different project types that we have, as I mentioned: spokes, partners, and S.E.E.D.S. So S.E.E.D.S is designed to promote collaboration, to support that cross-pollination of tools and data and ideas across disciplines, as well as sectors. So kind of bridging learnings from one sector to another, to engage multiple sectors, engage academia, industry, government, or communities, and really work at that intersection of what the mission of the hub is, really expanding it out to others in the region that have goals and have projects that really support that mission as well. So the purpose, as we said before, those three, and it's in support of members who are in the Southern region, and looking at the major goals and priority areas of the South Hub. So we do take those into consideration as criteria, not only in a traditional research grant, but really we'll look at the criteria for the S.E.E.D grants, which are much more focused on this collaboration, cross-pollination, and look. So we have three different categories for the S.E.E.D grants that we award. One is the small, which is up to $10,000, a mid-range, which is up to $50,000, and we call a large S.E.E.D grant, which is up to $100,000 for activities that fall into these priority areas and also support the type of activities that we talked about that are the mission for the hub. The distinction and eligibility is you must have be an individual or a group led by a faculty member or an individual that is from an academic institution in the 16 states. They have at least the lead person has to be within that, or another nonprofit within the southern states defined as Delaware through Texas, including, like we said, the District of Columbia, as well as the US territories and Virgin Islands. It doesn't mean that the whole team has to be in these states, but at least who is the lead does for eligibility for these awards. And the rationale that we're looking at is that we wish to partner with investigators in our region through this program to support the strategic efforts across the region. So due to this real aspect of partnerships, we do look to see, how is it supporting some of the things that we talked about as the mission? What are the outcomes? And we report it jointly with the hub and the grantees. So in some cases, we can be more involved if you need that, if we can help with outreach. We really see this as a way of extending the mission of the South Hub And awardees' activities will be advertised as a collective program and an extension of programmatic activities within the priority areas of the hub. So you can see that it's a little bit more of an interaction than it would be in general. So we look at the review criteria as well. We want to touch on these. That these 4 are the review criteria, and I want to be sure you can see them. So I don't know if Zoom is blocking them, but it is reach. So we look at the number of partners or states directly impacted by your work. And so that is a criteria that the review panels will look at. As well as impact, which we defined as the degree of impact on the southern region or on a South Hub priority area. So one of those areas that we looked at before, what is the degree of impact on the region generally, or on one of the South Hub priority areas from this project. And connection, to demonstrate connection to users. So one thing about the South Hub is that we are one step removed from primary fundamental research, in the sense that we do want that connection to either a user or students or to people, or in some way that even results that have been tested theoretically are being applied out in the world. So we really act as a bridge between the idea, like sort of somewhere in between fundamental research and say what would be, commercializing research. But we want to say, where's the connection to users, and not necessarily doing first principles research as part of the S.E.E.D grants. Also, diversity is the last criteria. What types of groups and individuals are impacted by the work that you're proposing to do? So these are the 4 review criteria that could be addressed directly in the proposal, but they will be the ones that the reviewers are asked to judge on, and how people are awarded for these different programs. So I want to talk briefly about the award structure and the size of these awards. So the small awards are up to $10,000, and the structure is a 1 to 3 page maximum proposal. You have 2 pages for a budget justification to justify the budget, and then an NSF or NIH style 2-page biosketch for the lead. So it's not a long process. And these are example possible activities. They're not inclusive. They're just to give a flavor. Pre-COVID or even now, travel is something that can be requested. Something where you propose a workshop within a larger conference. Dissemination tasks, the creation of products that can help make work more usable, more extendable. Personal or professional mentoring, keeping in mind that reach is one of the criteria. So if the reach is only 1, you have to take that into account as to how it really impacts the region in general. But in this sense, it can be a single investigator or a single person that takes on a small award if it's going to be a program that you're putting on for someone, or it is a convening of some kind. And so these are, and we'll get examples of some of those awards and what's been awarded in the past in a second, so that you can get a sense of what types of things are successful. Mid-range is up to $50,000. This is a 5-page proposal. Again, 2 pages, budget justification and biosketch. And examples, again, not limited to, to try to have similar data sets that have been gathered within a priority area that could be useful, say, to education or research. We also have a platform within the hub to be able to try to share things. So making things more shareable is definitely an activity that could case. Creating live use cases, hackathons, or funding ambassadors to do work and outreach on behalf of the South Hub, to be able to do outreach in a particular priority area or across priority areas. Small scale funding applied to support the distribution of shareable outcomes, to really expand the reach of a particular outcome if it's something that was, say, developed, but it doesn't have that ability to scale. We want to see some of the things that have been used to be used more effectively or more broadly. And so we consider those valid, which is, again, in between this idea, there's usually things that aren't typically funded after research is completed, unless it was going to a commercialized stage. So we want to serve that as a bridge too. The large, we consider the distinction here that it to be multi-institutional activities, things that is 8-page proposal description, again, 2-page budget justification, 2-page biosketch, and to look at the difference. The examples here are the same, but one was highlighted in yellow is saying maybe similar data initiatives across institutions working together to try to produce something, or things that affect multiple states or a multi-institutional activities. So we wouldn't expect that only a single investigator would apply for a large, unless there was an activity that was planned that involved most institutions. So with that, we talk about, I can show you some of the projects. They're going to actually hear from some of them in more detail that have been awarded through this program already. We've awarded so far since 2022 larges. One is a consortium for HBCUs in data science. The other one is a data science next steps project that runs summer schools, and you'll hear more from them. We've awarded 3 mid-scale projects across different institutions, looking at education, looking at open data for cities, looking at information technology and data science research. And 4 small projects have been awarded, looking at a data science series, compiling homelessness data in the state of Delaware, visualization and data reuse, and extending physics teaching and outcomes into the data space and outreach into the data space. So I want to pause here. And as we switch over, I want to switch over to my colleague, Kendra Lewis-Strickley, and who is going to introduce the panelists that are going to talk, and they're going to be our awardees. So some of our S.E.E.D awardees are here, and they'll give brief explanations and introductions to what their projects are, just to give you an overview of what these types of projects look like. And after that, we can have more questions. But if there are particular questions about the thinking about the way that we've structured it, if you have structural questions, we'll answer those at the end as well. And if you have questions for particular S.E.E.D grantees, we can also answer those as well. So I just wanted to thank everyone again for coming. And Kendra, you want to come up and speak here?
Yeah, hi, thanks, Renata. Hi, everybody. So this portion is going to be an opportunity for the 2020 S.E.E.D awardees to give you a little bit about their project. They're going to be in lightning talk form, so they each have a slide. And then after that, we'll go into a potential high level of the 2021 S.E.E.Ds and then some Q&A. Again, S.E.E.D participants, I appreciate you all, but let's try to keep this concise because we have lots of potential questions. So first up will be Claire Bowen from the Project for Data for Kids. So Claire, go ahead and share your slides. And each S.E.E.D participant will talk for about a minute and change. So go ahead, Claire.
Hi, everyone. My name is Claire McKay Bowen. I am a Principal Research Associate. Excuse me. Ooh. Principal Research Associate at the Urban Institute. So for those who don't know, the Urban Institute is a nonprofit public policy research institution that elevates the debate on social and economic public policy issues. And so today I'm very excited to be talking about our project called Data for Kids, virtually teaching kids about data science. So when we first pitched this idea, this actually was inspired from doing a video series during the peak, or the initial peak of the pandemic. So this, I think, was in May, where we were trying to help engage kids about data and data science with my colleague, John Schwabish, who wasn't able to attend today. And we talked about how to do some coding with using Scratch from a program for MIT, how you can draw maps with an orange. And then here's a screenshot, or I shouldn't say screenshot, it's actually a picture of my Blackboard that you can see over, if you're looking at my screen, it's to the side behind me, where I was teaching kids about how we can collect data, analyze it, and try to visualize it. And so in this case, the kids decided that we were going to see whether or not they like dogs versus cats and tally that up and see what was the best way to visualize those votes. So from this week-long kind of series that we hosted with kids, we saw there was like this real thirst for doing some sort of interactive activities, toolkits, something to help engage kids about data visualization, and data science. So when we made this proposal for the SEED grant, we said that we need to determine a toolkit to help instructors teach data science, and data visualizations. So although John and I have taught and done different kind of outreaches for K through 12, we're still not teachers. So we wanted to use the South Big Data Hub SEED grant to engage with instructors and figure out what is the toolkit that will be most useful for them, and then develop that. And then to the second part is to host the resources and materials that we create from the grant on a website at urban.org. And then, of course, finally, collaborate with different organizations across the South Big Data Hub states. So you kind of saw that in the earlier slides. So what was the outcome? Well, given that we're limited with this lightning talk, and I'm trying to wrap this up very quickly, the thing that we developed was called data stories, where there is a general story about a data set that the kids can engage with at all different levels from grades 3 all the way to 12. The data stories range from food insecurity to eviction to like which national parks you should go to. Each of these stories are structured with a data question, how we would collect that data, analyze it, visualize it, and then at the end, think about the equity, ethics, and privacy about this data set. And with this toolkit, we developed instructor guides, a data set that is both messy and clean, again, for each of those grade levels, a data dictionary, and teaching slides. So basically, the instructor will have this toolkit. They don't have to modify much, just review the content really quickly and be able to port it over to do this kind of projects, or at least go through this data story with their students with very low lift. And into promoting these data stories on our website, we've done a couple Twitter threads. One was about the toolkit itself, and the other one is on the specific data stories and kind of the questions you would look into. We've done a couple blogs and done an interview with EdgeSurge. So with that, let's see if this will allow me to quickly at least look at the website here. So I think you guys can see this is the landing page at urban.org, and then you can go on to the different data stories, and you can see here all the materials I talked about. So you can go into city health equity, for instance. You can look at the data sheets. The data is here, and also look at the slides, which we pre-made, and that way the teachers can grab them, which includes indicating which grade bands each of these questions are and what the slides are for. So that was a quick overview. I'm going to pass it off because this was a lightning talk. So hopefully I can find the controls again to stop sharing.
Thank you for that. That was very concise. And if you don't mind, Claire, in the Etherpad, there's a section called links, and you can add that there. Her links are also included on the South Big Data Hub site as well, which are included at the top of the page. And then,
so everyone that makes sure, if you haven't seen in the chat, Kendra has posted a link to the Etherpad, which means it's a pad for you to sign in. You can sign in there, and it also lets you ask questions to the panelists that don't end up in the chat, and people can come in and answer them. So if you're a speaker, if someone asks a question about your talk in the Etherpad, you could answer them there as well. So you can go back, and if you haven't seen it, we can post the link again. All right, and you can add links there as well, Claire.
Yes, yes. But let me know if you do not see that in your chat if you came in after I posted that. I just want to be clear, her project was awarded at $50,000, by the way. And next, it will be Jason Black with the HBCU Data Science Consortium. Their project was awarded at $100,000. So Jason, you want to go ahead and share your screen? You can get started.
Yes, hello, I'm Jason Black, Florida A&M University. I'm the director for the HBCU Data Science Consortium. As was mentioned already, we were awarded a large mini grant, which was $100K. We came together as part of just conversations of HBCUs trying to figure out ways to find resources on how to start data science programs and initiatives. There are many resources out there for institutions, but as you all know, HBCUs have a particular set of circumstances that we deal with and a particular population that we deal with. And so we were looking for resources to help us do this. So we formed the organization, which has as a goal primarily to build the data science network and also create this catalog of resources that people can utilize when they're trying to start these types of academic programs and research initiatives. So we started off with an inaugural workshop, and we also had monthly salon speaker series once a month. We also gave out small mini grant awards, which we were really excited about because we were able to give those awards to schools that don't necessarily get a lot of funding. And that allowed them to start working on research initiatives that they would not necessarily get an opportunity to do. And we closed out the year with the Data Science Celebration, which we've now turned into an annual event. So I just listed here are some of the highlights of what came out of that first year. But one of the main things I want to highlight is that we were able to get a lot of attendance at our events, and we're building our network of schools. We have over 20 schools that were represented at our inaugural workshop. That number has gone over to over 100 people on our contact list. All of our mini grant awardees are moving forward with their research. So they're looking to start funding, getting more funding for that, as well as working on other initiatives at their institutions. And we have also moved forward to nonprofit status. So we have a model in place now for people who are wishing to join as an individual. You can join as an institution, a community partner, or even an industry partner. So if you have any questions or want to know more information about the consortium, feel free to reach out to me.
Yeah, thank you for that. And if there's any links or anything, feel free to put them in the chat. But again, all these are on the South Big Data Hub website as well. And then next, we have, sorry, I'm pulling it to try to do this at the same time. Yes, so next we have Masa from the University of Texas, Austin, and her project was awarded $10,000 and entitled Visualization and Data Reuse Challenge with Digital Rocks Portal. Go ahead, Masa.
Hello, do you see my screen?
Yes.
All right. So we were awarded a small grant for porous media visualization and data reuse challenge. My name is Masha Pradanovic. I'm at the University of Texas at Austin, and this was joint work with James McClure from Virginia Tech. So I understand that not everybody might know what porous materials are. They're ubiquitous and in nature. Rocks, soil, your lungs, and then also energy storage materials such as fuel cells are all porous. And because of the complicated interfaces within, they're quite challenging to both visualize, model, understand. Typically, we want to understand some sort of a transport through it. So Digital Rocks Portal I've been working on for since 2015, stores, data sets, visualizations, any kind of associated data measurements, as well as simulations. And it assigns DOI for referencing in publications, and projects are curated. And we initialized this, this visualization challenge both to reuse the data that exists and also create a number of educational materials that one can go back to and learn from. So you can see an example here of it. This is an experimental 3D velocity field in a sphere packing of spheres, which is like a soil model. And you can see sort of like where velocity is large, you have yellow colors and blue where it's low. So you can immediately see from this three-dimensional structure that it's hard to visualize and understand what's going on within. Based on this project, actually, there was one of the winning visualization entries in this contest. Or there's an second example here, which shows displacement of two fluids, such as injected CO2 and water. This is in a fracture, and this is relevant to sequestration of CO2 and reducing emissions. So you can see the front moving in through a rough fracture. This is again one of the winning videos. So you can learn more by either just Googling and taking a look at Digital Rocks portal and the entries, or following us on social media. Now, what was the visualization about? So we had a visualization mini course, which was a 2-hour, well, it was in October 2020, so it was on Zoom. And videos and Jupyter notebooks are posted on GitHub for further reuse. And you can find them linked to this website. And then there was also a visualization based on the mini course. There was a follow-up with visualization contest where we invited anyone, either student or within 5 years of finishing a degree, to provide static image visualization of a porous material that is based on a Digital Rocks portal project, videos such as the ones one that I just played, or 3D prints. And you can see the 3 first entries of the static video that are linked here, as well as which data set they reused. We also have a poster with more information. All of them are linked to Digital Rocks portal. So that is all I have.
Thank you, Martha. That was great. Again, if there's any link, feel free to add them to the Etherpad. But again, these are all linked on the South Hub website as well. So there's a couple different ways for you to get that information.
I'll enter these links. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. And then rounding out our 2020 S.E.E.D Awards, we have Seema Iyer, whose project was awarded $50,000 as well. And her project was entitled Evaluation and Demonstration of Open Data Portal Technology for Smart Cities and Data Science for Social Good. So take it away, Seema.
Hello, everybody from Baltimore. I am just going to make sure that I'm actually sharing the right thing, which I can never tell sometimes.
We see your slides, not in presentation mode.
All right, got it. Is that the full screen?
Yes.
Okay, so the University of Baltimore and Towson University started a partnership actually in 2020, which is with an NSF grant for the Harnessing the Data Revolution, which is how we found out about the S.E.E.D and the South Big Data Hub and the S.E.E.D grant opportunity. We started through the Harnessing the Data Revolution, a Baltimore data science core for social good. So each one of our universities has 5 data science students across each of our universities, irrespective of the degree that students might be coming in from. So it's meant to be very interdisciplinary. And then we connect them to organizations in the city of Baltimore that need data science help. In some cases, it's the city itself, sometimes, or some type of public agency, and sometimes it is a nonprofit. And so the students were both taking data from these organizations and kind of creating data. And we thought, wouldn't it be interesting? And, you know, over the course of a semester or a year, they are just kind of tapping the tip of the iceberg of what that data could be mined for. And so we thought, okay, once they have created a data set through this process, so one group, if, for example, was working with a reentry program, and now there's all this reentry data, but anonymized, so there's no PII or anything like that, but they've created it in a way that it can now be analyzable. And the question is, could we get the students to post their data in a way that other students around the region could also use it? So that's basically the problem that we had. We were creating all this wonderful data and no real place to put it. And I'm sure many of you are often in that same boat. How do you create a way for multi-university partners to create pathways for students to both post and then use that data for other projects? So we wanted to really think deeply about which open data portal we might use. There's lots of companies out there, there's lots of platforms, and we wanted to know the pros and cons of using them. And basically, while we were evaluating we opened it up for anybody to come evaluate with us. So that's the kind of what, who, why, and where. And I will put this link in the chat for people to look at. So the webinars are now all open for you to look at. We had folks from the ESRI, ESRI Open Data Hub portal come talk to us, as well as some of our partners. I should say the Baltimore Neighborhood Indicators Alliance, which is at the University of Baltimore, is part of the National Neighborhood Indicators Partnership, which is coalesced by the Urban Institute. That's why we know so much about the Urban Institute's work. And so we brought in other NNIP partners in each one of our webinars that were using different kind of open data portals. So Detroit was using an ESRI platform, Pittsburgh was using a different platform. So we were able to kind of tap into two different kind of networks. So we were able to tap into the South Big Data Hub network as well as the NNIP network in these webinars. So I welcome you to take a look at those. And then we asked within our region, if you are thinking about hosting an open data, what are some of your concerns, so that when we went into the webinars, our speakers knew the kind of questions that might come from the audience. And again, these might be questions that you yourself have, and that's what the webinars were aimed to address. Oh, sorry, I killed my screen share. But the last thing to say is that basically from the community survey, we kind of figured out what kind of questions we wanted our panelists to answer. Can the platform help with multiple publishers? How do you document your metadata? What do you deal with for archiving and updating data once it becomes either outdated or you have a new version of it? How do you make sure that you integrate for data analysis and visualizations? And then of course, we all have this in our mind: how much does it cost? And how can we continue to maintain this even beyond the length of the grant that we happen to be on? So this is where we're after. We're creating that open data portal right now. Should be open by June 2022. We're debating between two different platforms. And then we're posing questions for students to use the data and trying to answer over the course of the summer in a little bit of a mini hackathon. So that's where we're headed.
Thank you. That's really interesting. That's a really great project. So those were our 2020 SEED grant awardees. Now I'm going to give the floor back to Renata to briefly discuss the 2021 SEED, and then we'll go into some of the Q&A.
Sure, thank you, Kendra. So thank you to all the projects that presented today. And I wanted to give you an overall sense of the types of projects that we support through the South Hub, as well as some of the projects that are just been awarded. So the 2021 awards, the large award is to Bowie State and Alabama State, looking at data science next steps. So I don't know if there's someone, Velma, if you're here, if you wanted to say hello from this project and just, speak about what you plan to do. You could say, just an overview, kind of a sentence if you're here. Others, oh yeah, go ahead, Velma, I see you.
Oh, I'm sorry, I can wait when I,
go ahead, no, it's just a sentence to overview, just to say what the project is. These have just begun, but they also give an overview of the type of projects it gets awarded.
Thank you. Yes, I'm working with a colleague, Dr. Ed Pearson from Alabama A&M, and we're looking at Data Science Next Step, where we're trying to bring data science to first year and second year college students to introduce them to the field of data science. So we're hosting a virtual summer camp between both institutions, running at the same time, covering the same content. We're proposing like mini hackathons, challenges for teams to participate, where we have prizes for the groups. So we are just started, but I'm happy to say that our participation list has reached a waiting list now for our summer academy. So we are well able to have enough participants, and we can have more information after the project is over this summer with our results. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have a new mid-scale award, Human Resource Information Technology and Data Science. I don't know if someone's from this award is here, as well as a new small award, which Adam, I think I saw you here, Extending Physics Outreach, if you want to say a sentence about what this is too. You're on mute.
Even after 2 years, thanks. Yeah, so I work with a group called QuarkNet, which does nationwide physics high school teacher outreach. And over the last 5 or 8 years, I've been putting more data science and experience with Jupyter and the SciPy stack into those workshops. But the reach of that program has been limited to just these particular universities doing particle physics in and around their area. And so this small seed grant is going to help extend that into some communities that we haven't reached before, primarily Black, Latinx, and Indigenous areas, low-income areas, and trying to recruit some teachers for that professional development to reach the kids that we don't see enough of at university.
Thank you, Adam. So I'd like to open the floor. You've seen the types of projects, the program. To anyone who has questions about the program, about the types of projects, the review criteria, and if you have questions specifically for any of the projects, and we can start looking through the chat as well. So we'll open the floor and we'll have questions to start.
And feel free to just unmute and ask your question.
Would we need
I'll
to
go through the chat.
you at the base to make that happen?
Were you asking a question? I see Todd, Gary, or was that a mistake? So feel free to unmute, or you can ask your questions in the chat if you would like, but you can unmute and just ask.
There is a question in the chat post asking, does the workshop, and speaking about, I guess, the smaller awards, does the workshop and a larger conference need to happen in the South Big Data Hub region? And are you allowed to apply for a SEED grant in the year after current grant has ended, or is there a wait period?
Oh, in the year after, so
yes,
reread
I
the
guess
second part.
Yeah, so once your award is over, can you reapply the next year?
Right. So I answer the first question. The first one is, does the workshop or larger conference need to happen in the South region? So it does not need to happen in the South region, but you still have to show reach in a South Hub priority area or in the South Hub region. So if the participants are going to be from there, say you co-located with a major meeting that may not be happening in the South, but you still have to address the review criteria as such. So just thinking about that in that context as well, that's part of the look, is the reach within the South community. The second part is, are you allowed to apply the year after the current grant is ending? Yes, you can reapply, but you can reapply with a different project. It can't be it can be a building on a current project, but it can't be just an extension of current activities. So yeah, thanks.
I have a question. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
So the larger grants are described as multi-institutional. And I'm wondering, is that like the intent is that there will be co-PIs from multiple institutions, and do they need to be funded co-PIs, or could these be like supporting agencies? I have a collaborator with the USGS who I know would be interested.
So it can be collaborators. They don't have to be funded PIs. Again, what this program does is we consider it as a program that should be very put up, that not necessarily just a research grant. So people are paid as participants in the program, even the PIs. Is this particular entity. So you don't have to have the traditional co-PI set up, and they do not have to be funded co-PIs. They need to be actually doing works, participating in the program for that to be the case. So that's what we mean by this kind of partnership aspect, is that the SEEDS program is a program and it is housed as such. So we consider even the PIs participants in the program, not the traditional separate PI status.
Okay, great. Yeah.
That's a great question. Yeah, a good clarification. Anyone else? We can also open the floor. We want to be sure we get any procedural questions, as this is really about people who want to maybe apply. But if you do have questions for the SEED grant awardees, you can also ask those as well. And since we have them here. But does anyone else have any questions? Go ahead, Kendra.
There are a couple questions, yeah, in the Etherpad, and I can read them off.
Okay.
So we can answer them. The first being, are non-academic institutions able to compete for funding? If the partnership or collaboration extends outside of the Southwood area, is that a disqualifier for the proposal?
So you have to be an academic institution or a nonprofit to be primary for funding. You can have partners that are not in that status, and you have to be an academic institution or a nonprofit in the South for it to be primary. But you can have partners that are not at those institutions and are not in the South that are a part of the project. But in order for the lead person that needs to apply, it needs to be at an institution, as an academic institution or a nonprofit physically located in the Southern region. So Kay, I see your hand up.
Yes. So since a number of these have been programs, is it safe to assume that one of the criteria for application is a plan for making the program sustainable? Do you have to think, because it sounded like you were clearly stating that this funding is not going to be ongoing, it's just a seed. So is that part of it?
So we definitely like to see that. So it's not officially one of the criteria. So for instance, you can propose an activity that will set to end. Like for instance, the Digital Rocks, they proposed to do this challenge that was building and expanding the scale and outreach of the portal that she had been creating through research. So that activity isn't an ongoing activity, but that's the activity that was funded through the SEED grant. So it doesn't have to have a long-term sustainability plan, but if you're going to be creating materials that you want to be made available, you should say where you plan to make those available, or if you are asking for partnership with the hub to try to keep them available. So, so that it's not just a creation activity that goes nowhere, that nobody sees after the end. So I would say that.
Okay. And then another question came in. Could you elaborate on what you mean by collect similar data within a priority area? That seemed a bit unclear on what the data should be similar to.
Right. So these are meant to be broad. These were just examples. So collect similar data. I think the thought was that there could be a priority area, say health disparities, and maybe there's 3 different health disparities that are prevalent in the South. We know HIV or heart disease or stroke is very common in the South. Maybe collecting similar information across these different disparities that could show a more of a pattern that would not normally be done, because each disease state is usually siloed or separated in that sense. So some way of connecting across different maybe disparities. So that would be one example that I could see that is part of the thought process around that connecting similar data.
Okay. Another question was, will there be an option for an informal review feedback on proposals from anyone in the SEED program prior to submission?
So we don't do informal review. I mean, you can reach out to us and say, maybe we're thinking about it, but we send it to an independent. It does do a peer review. So we don't evaluated wholly internally. So it's not to say that the internal review is a guarantee that you'd be getting awarded. And that's only based on availability. So we don't do a formal internal review. It would just be if you wanted to have a conversation or send an email, but nothing so formal as that.
Before I keep reading. Okay, another question. For proposals in the education area, is there a limitation or preference for the target community? Can we engage non-education institutions, i.e. companies, nonprofit professionals?
Absolutely. You can engage non-academic institutions. Part of the hub is crossing sectors between academia, industry, nonprofit, and government. So we welcome that kind of partnerships across these different sectors as part of the SEED grants as well. So you do not have to have, an undergraduate or graduate or purely academic focus for your programs either.
The next question on here, my research group has an ongoing hub spoke grant. Will this disqualify or complicate my SEED proposal?
No, you can look, but it has to be different than your hub or spoke grant in the sense that it's extending an activity. The spokes is another type of award that has been awarded through the hubs to look at, advancing particular research, but it has to be its own self-contained project, not fully overlapping with the spoke work for the SEED grant.
And there's one that just came in. Let's see. Can you comment on next round timeline and process multi-institution application? Does it require just one submission? Is the submission form through the Google form sufficient?
So it's just one submission. You would say who else, you would have somebody be lead, and then you would say who else was going to be a part of a participant in this project in your proposal. And the timeline is that it's open now. So on our website is at the southbigdatahubs.org, southbigdatahub.org. We can go there now and just look at it. It tells you the deadlines for submission. The SEED grant program is open now. Kendra's put it in the chat as well. So you can go to that link. And it will be closing at the closing dates are there. Also the application where you can submit the proposal. And it's going to submit through a Google form. So you don't need to apply twice. You don't have to have, if you have multiple institutions, you don't need to do what would be like a collaborative award and have it submitted from both. You can do one. You just need to say who all of the people are, give the budget justification. And you can give bio sketches for 2-page bio sketches for more than one person. For the people who are going to be lead, you can give a 2-page bio sketch for each person so that we know who they are in that sense. But it's one proposal, one just project description, one budget justification, but you can have multiple bio sketches for the people that are going to be most heavily involved.
Okay, another question. Is there a list of allowable or unallowable expenses? Just curious about budget items such as graduate student tuition, stipend support, overhead costs.
This is a fantastic question because it does come up a lot. So we consider this program, as we mentioned, to be participants in the SEED grant program. So all personnel, graduate students, undergrad, faculty, and the like are participant costs. So they would need to say, be awarded as participant costs. And then if you have, and sometimes that's enough, right? Sometimes that is the primary work, is the actual participation of the people in the program. If, however, you have a project that requires more than just participant costs, like, different types of expenses, allowable expenses, then we can explore the idea of a subaward. However, that does significantly reduce the amount of usable funds. These funds are very, it's a small amount of money. So if you really need it to be a subaward, it will then incur indirect costs at your institution as well as one of the hub institutions. So just thinking about that as, a significant reduction in the amount of money that can be awarded. But yes, the people should be, for graduate students, is perfectly fine. They are considered participants and should be put in as participant costs along with the faculty.
Yeah.